My name is Mark Garrell. I'm the Innovation Director at the Fulton Academy of Science and Technology. Part of my job is helping teachers find new ways of doing things at school, better teaching, better pedagogy, better tools. One of the things we do when we talk about that is, what is the purpose? What is the goal? What's the reason for doing one thing over another? And so I wanted to bring in this idea, this vision statement of what is the reason for school? What is the purpose of public school, of education? I wanted to bring a vision statement, if you will, from Ella Flagg Young. She was the superintendent of schools in Chicago in 1917. When she retired, she wrote this wonderfully eloquent statement about what school should be and her vision of school. I would like to share it with you, but then unpack it piece by piece, little by little, and really show how it applies to what we are facing here today. She wrote, "I believe that every child should be happy in school. So we have tried to substitute recreation for drill. We have tried to recognize types of minds as a mother does among her children. We were losing the majority of children at the 5th grade. By letting them do things with their hands, we have saved many of them. In order that teachers may delight in the awakening of the spirits of children, they must themselves be awake. We have tried to free the teachers. Someday the system will be such the child and teacher will go to school with ecstatic joy. At home in the evening, the child will talk about the things done during the day and will talk with pride. I want to make schools the great instrument of democracy." So let's walk through that. I believe every child should be happy in school. I can't imagine anyone who thinks school should be miserable. So we're going to leave that one as is. That's a given. We have tried to substitute recreation for drill. And a lot of people will think, what, you just want kids to run around and play and not study, not work? And that's not what Ella Flagg Young was thinking. She really was talking more about making learning enjoyable. The game designer Rafe Koster has written a book called The Theory of Fun for Game Design. It's a wonderful resource for teachers and educators. One line in particular he writes that puts it into perspective. When people talk about video games being addictive and people being addicted to video games, he brings out that that's because video games do this great job of setting up a curiosity and then giving you multiple ways of figuring it out on your own. And when you have figured it out, they reward you. They tell you that you figured out what the problem is. He has this one line in the book. He says, "The drug of video games is learning." Let me say that one again. The drug of video games is learning. Learning itself, biologically, neurologically, is ecstatic fun. When you learn something new, you get that aha blast. It is serotonin and dopamine. It is the body's reward center. Learning should be fun. And if it's not, maybe we're doing something wrong. We were losing the majority of children at the 5th grade. And the 5th grade is when we're also here in the 21st century, when we're beginning to lose young women in the STEM fields. A lot of girls are saying, well, I don't really want to get into that. That's not for me. I think part of that is because we've made school such a boring place. We've made school memorizing and functionary and robotic. And then we've conditioned young girls that they have to be perfect. They have to be this model citizen. And I think really what we need to do is reframe both of those. School needs to be the place of discovery, and young women need to be people who can figure things out in a way that is exactly them. We don't need more nerdy men. We need more nerdy women. We need the engineers. We need that wide range of ideas and viewpoints, because the more viewpoints we have, the better ideas will come out of that. So if we're losing our young women at the fifth grade, much like Ella Flagg Young was losing all of her students at the fifth grade, part of our problem may be what we're doing and why we're turning those students away. In order that teachers may delight in the awakening the spirits of children, they must themselves be awake. The spirits of children really is a beautiful metaphor when you think about it. In the Avengers movies, Steve Rogers, Captain America, has been asleep for 75 years. It's suspended animation. And there's this wonderful scene in the movie where Nick Fury looks at him and goes, well, that's something you probably should look into. And Captain America takes out this little book and he starts writing it down. And you get a glimpse of that book. And there are all of these cultural references and these high points throughout history and ideas and facts that he needs to know to be part of a functioning society member here in 21st century America and as part of the Avengers. I can't think of any better concept of what school should be than a place to awaken the spirits of children. Let them be curious. Let them be creative. Let them find those things that let them be functioning members of society. And not just functioning members, cogs that can replace other clogs, but they themselves being distinct voices. Their personalities, their mindsets, their concepts, their ways of doing things really should be the way school works. Let's put the students at the center, not the curriculum, not the learning goals, not the standards. Let's focus on the students as the determining factor of what is and isn't working. We have tried to free the teachers. When I was getting my certification, I was with a group of other teachers taking classes, working through the process. And we would all kind of hang out afterwards, talking about our classrooms, what we had learned. And this one teacher had talked about his lesson plans. And his principal required the standard is written on the whiteboard, your lesson plans are on your desk, written in 5-minute increments. And when the principal comes in, he looks at the lesson plan, he looks at the standard, and whatever is that time moment in your lesson plan had better be what's happening in your classroom. Otherwise, you were called to the principal's office and you had to give an accounting of why you had deviated from your lesson plan. And I looked at him, I said, you're serious. You have to plan out your classes in 5-minute increments, and you have to hold to them by that layer of granular detail. And he goes, man, I've known teachers who have lost their jobs because they've deviated from their lesson plans. I said, but what if a kid has a question? What if things are just really hitting and you're going great and you're ahead of schedule? No. You stick to the lesson plan. It is scripted, it is pinpointed, and it is confined. We must free the teachers. Not only do we give them creativity, do we give them curiosity, do we give them an awakened spirit of humanity, we also have to free the teachers from the stress of living below the poverty line. We have to free teachers from worrying about if they need a second job just to pay their bills. We have to free the teachers to be functioning members. That means paying them like respected members of society. And all of this starts culminating into this idea. This is the line I tell myself every moment when I go into school. I pull into my parking space, I take a deep breath, and I remind myself, someday the system will be such. The child and teacher will go to school with ecstatic joy. Picture that for a moment. What would school be like that students and teachers are both filled with ecstatic joy? Teachers are excited to be there because they're going to see those aha moments when the kid finally gets it. Kids are running to school because they know it's not going to be boring and dull and useless. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be thrilling. It's going to be a place where they can find themselves, better themselves, become a voice of the world. That's the kind of place where school should be. We should have schools that encourage people to be better people, to find your voice, to share your voice, to be proud of what you've learned. At home in the evening, the children will talk about the things done during the day and will talk with pride. I did this. This is my work. This is what I learned. Schools need to be about the art of creating better humans. Not test scores, not quizzes, not work, not machines. We have to create better humans by letting those humans find their own voice and make themselves. Schools should be palaces where people are proud to walk in the hallways, where people are excited to be there, to see the learning, to see the growth, to see the excitement. We're not talking about data points. We're not talking about students, plural, growth. We're talking about students, apostrophe S, personal, possessive growth. We have to be about humanity because we have this final statement. I want to make schools the great instrument of democracy. If people are not educated, if people have not practiced critical thinking, if people have not found their voice, if people have not been accustomed to sharing their voice, defending their arguments, learning new ways, learning, unlearning, and relearning, going through the cycle of changing your mind and adding new ideas, rejecting others, coming back to something you may not have understood and finding new ways to think about it. What is the purpose of school? The purpose of school should be becoming the great instrument of democracy. Every voice, every person, every mind has a chance to change the world. That's what school is for. Thank you.